Welcome back, folks. Labyrinth, the 1986 dark fantasy film from the mind of Jim Henson, is celebrating its 40th anniversary. Let me just take a moment here because I honestly can't believe it's been that long. But man, I've been waiting a long time to do a Labyrinth review, and this is the perfect opportunity, really, to look back at one of the most seminal films from my childhood. Both Labyrinth and Jim Henson's other dark fantasy film, The Dark Crystal, had such an impact on my imagination and creativity as a kid. Those two films are spiritual companions to each other through the amazing concept art of Brian Froud, who worked on both films. Bear in mind, I will be touching on plot points and details that fall into spoiler territory here. So with that said, let's get right into this review. Terry Jones wrote the screenplay for Labyrinth. If you know him, Terry Jones was originally part of the British comedy troupe Monty Python, who I just adore and love. Jones brings his wit, irony, and edge to the screenplay here in a way that doesn't distract you from the story. If you want to dive deeper into the creatures and world of Labyrinth, then I recommend checking out The Goblin Companion here by Brian Froud, the concept artist, and Terry Jones. Good stuff here. I've had this book since I was a kid, still in good condition, still intact. This book came out in 1986, I believe, as a companion piece to the film. And Brian Froud provides some of the concept art and sketches that were used for the film, while Terry Jones gives some nice satirical, humorous, little witty descriptions for all the characters. Now, not every character is included in this book. You hear nothing about Jareth, the Goblin King, or Sarah, or Toby, or Ludo, or Hoggle. It just mainly focuses on the goblins. But right here, you see here, we have Agnes here, who you'll immediately recognize from the film here. She, of course, appears in that scene with Sarah when she falls into this underground realm of discarded items and lost memories, and Agnes kind of presides over that realm. So good stuff. I definitely recommend it. Sarah, played by Jennifer Connelly, is a self-absorbed teen with a vivid imagination. We find her reenacting scenes from a fairy tale novel called Labyrinth. So immediately from the very opening of the movie, we get that fairy tale framing and that embedded story within a story theme. Her bedroom is filled with fairy tale vibes that reflect her yearning to hold on to her childhood imagination. She has rows of classic fantasy novels, toys, and stuffed animals, many of which represent characters and creatures that she will later meet on her journey into the labyrinth. Despite all this fluffy fairy tale princess decor, Sarah's room is not just a cutesy little girl's bedroom. For instance, if you look carefully, you'll see on one of her bookshelves a copy of the game Judge Dredd, which seems kind of random, right? Why would she have that? If you're familiar with the Judge Dredd comic, you know that it's a very dark dystopian comic and seems a bit incongruous, right? An incongruous element that kind of suggests that the fantasy world that Sarah inhabits is less romanticized and much darker than her fairy tale princess cosplaying would have us believe at the beginning of the movie. Preferring to live in a fantasy world over reality, she's resentful towards her stepmother and half-brother, Toby, especially when asked to babysit for him on her parents' date night. In her frustration, she asks the Goblin King, a character from her novel, to take Toby away. Jareth, the Goblin King, portrayed by David Bowie, is a charismatic, manipulative, and theatrical ruler of a magical, dreamlike maze. Fulfilling Sarah's wish, he kidnaps Toby, then challenges Sarah to navigate and solve his labyrinth within 13 hours if she wants to save him. Let's look at David Bowie's Goblin King Jareth here, who I still think is a great villain, main antagonist for the film and for Sarah's character personally. His overall aesthetic and look combines both elements of the modern and the archaic. You look at his attire, he has that glam rock hair, the black eyeliner, that rock star vibe, but also his costuming has that arcane quality. Just gives this character a kind of timeless, ageless quality. Also, he has this threatening maturity to him as well. He is, on the one hand, this object of wonder and fascination for Sarah, kind of expressing her childlike wonder in a manner, but also expressing dangerous maturity, this threatening maturity as well. And that's really communicated in his attire, especially his leggings. Everyone's like noticed the bulge, the very pronounced bulge in his pants, and wondering, wait, was that an accident? Was that intentional? Well, it was intentional because Brian Froud, the concept artist, wanted Jareth to have this kind of threatening maturity, this dangerous quality. And so they wanted to kind of bring those elements to the surface and make that, very much a part of his character. And take it as you will, but it was an intentional design choice. He also has those crystal balls that he often uses to taunt Sarah with, and uses those crystal balls to trap her and create illusions and misdirect and mislead her. Those crystal balls also express another important element to his character. He can manipulate the physical space of the labyrinth, but also he's an illusionist. He manipulates people's dreams and he has power over dreams. Also, Bowie's music is great here. His lyrics really hit home. They're simple on the surface, but they really express the themes and deeper themes and layers of the movie. For instance, the opening intro song, Underground, very much ties into the deeper themes of the labyrinth. The underground is the labyrinth. The labyrinth itself is kind of a projection of Sarah's psychological terrain, because this movie is very much a coming of age story as well for Sarah. She's kind of navigating that journey from childhood to adulthood, adolescence. And, her journey through the labyrinth is also a mental one for her as well. I should also mention that Jareth is a shapeshifter, sometimes taking the form of an owl. Maybe I'm reading too much into this, but when I think of the symbolism of owls, they often represent for me wisdom, creativity, imagination, which seems in contrast to Jareth's role as a deceiver, illusionist, and manipulator. He's this ambiguous figure. Yes, he's a deceiver, he's a manipulator. By engaging her in this journey through the labyrinth, Jareth, in a way, is bringing out that deep creativity within herself. She has to tap into the dark recesses of her mind and tap into her creativity. So he's this profound figure of creativity and wisdom, too. In a dark sense. Speaking of the creatures here, Sarah, as she navigates her way through the labyrinth, just like Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz, meets several magical helpers and friends along the way. First of all, we have Hoggle, who is this troll-like creature, very ambivalent character at first, since he is very subservient and afraid of Jareth. He's the groundskeeper of the labyrinth, very divided in his loyalties because he also wants to help Sarah. Also, Hoggle was probably the most complex animatronic puppet that they used for the film. Brian Henson, Jim Henson's son, was Hoggle's puppeteer and also provided Hoggle's voice. I loved how his skin tone and textures extended to his costuming, his clothes, his tailoring, which matched the earthy tones of his skin and just gave him that organic feel. Brian Froud always incorporates elements from the natural world into his creations, his creature designs, and combines those with elements from European folklore and fairy lore. These just amazingly organic creatures that feel like they just sprouted from the earth, and Hoggle feels like he's sprouted from the earth. Then we have the friendly giant Ludo. So every labyrinth has a monster at its center, right? The story of the labyrinth here harkens back to those ancient myths, that Greek myth of Theseus and the Minotaur. But here, the monster isn't scary. Well, of course, the real monster at the center of the labyrinth here is Jareth, but Ludo is this childlike creature, not scary at all. Very kind, very protective, and very caring, and just endearing. I love Ludo. Next, we have Sir Didymus, this fox-like Don Quixote-esque knight who has some of the funniest scenes in the movie. He's a very funny character. Just like Don Quixote, he has this misguided sense of chivalry, which often leads him astray. He rides this cowardly steed, a sheepdog named Ambrosius, who, by the way, is also the same sheepdog used for Sarah's real dog in the film called Merlin, whose names are both nods to Arthurian legend, which is kind of cool because in some cases, the magician, Arthur's magician, Merlin, is sometimes named Merlin Ambrosius. So probably Terry Jones, who I know is a big fan of medieval history and Arthurian legend and lore, put that in the script, obviously. So that's kind of cool. Aside from all the creatures, there are a lot of fun traps and puzzles that Sarah has to solve as she works her way through the labyrinth, such as the door knockers, the four guards, then the helping hands, the bog of eternal stench, the goblin masquerade, and Jareth's illusionary maze. So many good scenes and very clever and fun, as they should be. I also love the ending of this movie, the final scene, which always pulls on my heartstrings. It's just a wonderful testament to the imagination, and I love how Sarah, at the end of her journey through the labyrinth, has reached a level of maturity and growth, but that doesn't mean she has to completely abandon her childhood imagination. She can integrate it with who she is now. And I think that speaks and resonates with a lot of us who, hold on to that childlike wonder that we had. And, this still resonates with us, whether that sense of wonder was discovered through films, through books, comic books, through toys. We still, I think, want to kind of surround ourselves with that sense of wonder, either through rediscovering a film, a book we loved, or just engaging in something creative to tap into that imagination, that imaginative power. And this movie is just kind of a homage to that wonder. It's a movie that, like The Dark Crystal, was like made for me. And that's why I'm gonna just give this a perfect rating of 5 stars. It's a 5-star movie for me. It always will be. And I think, it's a cult film. It's a niche film. I think there's a reason it has a cult status. It's not for everyone. I know people who are lukewarm on this film. I know other people who love it. And I hope it continues to find new generations of fans. So I think it's a timeless movie and has that staying power. So let me know if you've seen Labyrinth. Do you care about it? Is it too niche? How do you feel about it? Please feel free to share your thoughts, drop a comment, and I look forward to more reviews coming your way soon. Dan and I will be getting some to you very soon here, so you can look forward to those. Okay, be well.